Good evening, everyone. Welcome to UWA's Early Offer and Entry Pathways webinar. Hello to all the students and parents joining us online this evening. We appreciate you being here for this event. Before we begin today's presentation, the University of Western Australia acknowledges the custodians and traditional owners of the land on which its campuses are located. At the main campus in Crawley, we acknowledge the Whadjuk Noongar people as the traditional owners of the land where we are broadcasting from. The Whadjuk Noongar people remain the spiritual and cultural custodians of their land as they continue to practice their values, languages, beliefs, and knowledge. My name is Mick Wade. I'm the manager of future student engagement here at UWA, and I'm very excited to MC this event. As the manager of future student engagement, I'm responsible for connecting WA schools, secondary schools with UWA. At UWA, we're all very passionate about engaging with secondary school students and the broader community. We know that every student is unique, and we do everything that we can to kind of hear what you want to do and to provide you with all the study options and opportunities to connect that we can. With the availability of early offers, as well as all of the various other pathways, there are so many exciting opportunities and pathways for students moving into their tertiary studies who want to study with us here at UWA. Today, we're going to be covering the following topics as part of the webinar. We'll go over early offers, how they work at UWA, as well as what the entry requirements are. We'll cover the more broader entry requirements, so the various other pathways that are available to school leavers, such as the ATAR and experience-based entries programs. We'll cover the courses, so the different bachelor's degrees that are available and their specific admissions requirements. And then we'll go into a live Q&A session where our presenter for this evening, Dom Blanke, as well as Rick Ackerman, the Associate Director of Admissions, will be able to answer your questions. While it is a webinar, we do want to hear from you, as the live Q&A would indicate. So you can submit your questions by scanning the QR code that's on the screen and entering the event code, which is #120624. As I said, at the end of the presentation, the most common questions will be answered live by the panel. We also have a group of UWA staff working behind the scenes to answer your questions as well, and they'll be online until 7:30. So make sure to ask away. Just in case, if your question isn't answered this evening, or if you want more information, please refer to the Early Offers website, which we'll share with you, where you can access a list of frequently asked questions or get in touch with our Future Students Centre. We'll share our contact details towards the end of the session as well. If for some reason you're having technical difficulties, please contact one of the team members at events@uwa.edu.au. Again, that's events@uwa.edu.au. All right, it's now my great pleasure to pass over to Dom Blanke, who will talk to us a bit about early offers entry pathways and courses over this evening. Dom is a schools relationship manager here at UWA as part of our schools engagement team. As part of her role, Dom regularly engages with students, teachers, and parents to provide advice on what UWA has to offer, as well as go over the options that are available to them. I'd now like to pass over to Dom, who will lead us in today's presentation.
All right, good night, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on your Wednesday evening. So my name is Dom, and as Mick mentioned, I am a staff member in the school engagement team here at UWA, but I'm also a current student at UWA and a graduate of this university as well. So when I was in year 12, thinking about what to study at university, I was really quite unsure. And so I thought I'd share with you a little bit about my journey from high school through that transition to university. I applied for a Bachelor of Science at UWA because I was pretty good at science at school and I enjoyed that subject the most. But beyond that, I was really unsure in terms of specialty within science, what I actually wanted to do, what I wanted to be, and what my future career path would look like. So in my day, we didn't have early offers, but I applied for a Bachelor of Science, accepted the offer and deferred it for a year. And I took a gap year to go and do some traveling. So that first picture there, me in the snow, is I spent 6 months over in Hungary on an exchange program. And then I actually came back to Perth and I worked as a bank teller for 6 months. So that was quite an interesting experience for me as well, something I didn't know that you could do straight out of school. But after that year off from study, I was ready to pick up my deferred place in the Bachelor of Science at UWA, and I tried a bunch of different subjects in my first year of study until I kind of found a passion for a couple of different areas and settled on majors within pharmacology, the study of how drugs interact with the human body, and that's from our biomedical sciences area, and a second major in marketing from our business and commerce area. So I really enjoyed that flexibility of a UWA degree where you could mix and match from across our different study areas. One of the other things I really enjoyed about my time at university was all of the fantastic extracurricular activities that you can get involved with. So the second picture you can see there is me with a group of friends that I made from one of the student clubs that I was heavily involved in. That was the Electronic Music Appreciation Society. And that had absolutely nothing to do with what I was studying at university, but I just thought it would be a really fun way to meet some new people at uni, make some new friends, and I learned how to DJ, so I got a new skill. But alongside that, I was also learning some really great employability skills that helped me to ultimately land an internship and land a job after university. Then, of course, that final picture there is me at my graduation day. So a great day, a great sense of accomplishment and achievement. My family came down to watch me cross the stage and receive my diploma. So hopefully something that you can all look forward to as well. So now to introduce you to who we are here at UWA. We are a World Top 100 university, actually ranked in the top 1% of universities worldwide. So that means, you know, if you come to study at UWA, your degree is going to be very well recognised and highly regarded, whether you're planning on staying in Western Australia, potentially moving interstate, or even overseas to work in the future. You also will have the opportunity as part of any course at UWA to have a lot of hands-on real-world experience. And I will talk a little bit later about some of the work integrated learning opportunities that you can include as part of your degree. But as I mentioned, it's also about all of the fun and extracurricular things that you can get involved with at university. So creating some great friendships and creating great moments that will contribute to building your wisdom outside of the books. So that is it from me for the moment. You'll hear back from me again in just a second, but I am going to pass over to my colleague, Rick Ackerman, the Associate Director of Admissions, to talk to us about the early offers tonight.
Thanks, Dom. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the UWA Early Offers and Entry Pathways webinar. So firstly, yes, early offers are running again for 2025. We did have the federal government enforce a change, which means that we can't make offers until September. So that's the main change that we have made so far for 2025. So we'll get started and we'll go through the how do you become eligible for an early offer at UWA? So firstly, all current Year 12 students undertaking WACE at a WA school are eligible for an early offer. And that's regardless of whether you're a domestic student or an international. And just for those that aren't aware, a domestic student, you're a domestic student, I'm sure most people on this call are, is if you're an Australian citizen, a New Zealand citizen, an Australian permanent resident, or an Australian permanent humanitarian visa holder. Along with students completing WACE, WA students undertaking the International Baccalaureate are also eligible for an early offer. So what is required to actually receive an early offer? So firstly, you must have a predicted ATAR of 80 or higher, or 78 if you are attending a Broadway school. Your predicted ATAR will be calculated by TISC, and they use the same methodology that was created by UWA back in 2020, and it's based on your Year 11 results. TISC have access to this data, so you're not required to provide this to either UWA or TISC. And the calculation includes your 4 best ATAR subjects and any bonus points you may be eligible for. So it tries to actually replicate the actual creation of ATARs based on your final ATAR examinations. For any course that requires an ATAR above 80, you'll be required to have a predicted ATAR that satisfies that course requirement. So for example, if the course requires an ATAR of 90, then you need to have a predicted ATAR of 90 or higher. One thing to keep in mind is if your predicted ATAR is not sufficient, then make sure that you keep going, because if you are close, we will still offer you, I'll make you a conditional offer subject to meeting the final ATAR requirement for that course. And if your final ATAR meets the entry requirements, then your offer just simply becomes unconditional based on your ATAR. If your predicted ATAR is below the course requirement but above UWA's entry requirements, we'll let you know what courses you are eligible for, and you can change your preferences around. And if your predicted ATAR is below 80, or if you're not completing ATAR subjects at all and you've applied for one of our comprehensive degrees, we'll make you an offer based on our experience-based entry pathway or through the special tertiary admission test. So admission requirements. So all early offers will have conditions attached to them. If you've met the 80 predicted ATAR requirement, the first condition is that you achieve an ATAR. So it does not have to be the 80, but you do have to achieve a final ATAR. So basically completion of at least 4 ATAR subjects. The second condition, and this is a condition applied to all current year 12 students, is that you must achieve WACE. We do get the odd student that doesn't achieve WACE, and we just ask that you contact the university and we'll look at your application still. But the important thing is to try and achieve WACE. Another condition that will be attached to offers is that you satisfy UWA's English requirement. So students must achieve a final scale mark of 50 or above in WACE ATAR English, Literature or EALD. You can also satisfy UWA's English requirements by completing a UWA approved test of English. For local WA students, most students would complete STAT to satisfy the English requirements, but IELTS, TOEFL, Pearson's Test of English are also available. And if you don't want to do STAT and you don't satisfy the English requirements through one of the ATAR subjects, you can complete a communications unit in your first semester of study at UWA. The unit counts towards your degree, which is a real positive by this initiative. And it ordinarily won't add any time to your degree either. But there is one exception to this, and that is our Bachelor of Education. Due to the unit structure of that degree, you're not able to actually do the communications unit. But if you did still want to do that, you could commence in a Bachelor of Arts, do 1 semester and then apply to transfer. The final condition that would be applied in many cases, but not all, is the satisfying of any specific subject prerequisites. And that would be done by completion of the specific ATAR subject, or in most instances, you can also complete what we call bridging units within your degree at UWA. Again, they count towards your degree ordinarily and may or may not increase the duration of your degree. Just to give an example, a student who wants to do engineering, if you don't meet the prerequisites, you can commence in the Bachelor of Science, complete the bridging units, and then transfer back into the Bachelor of Engineering. Depending on what bridging units you do need, though, in that situation, it's likely to increase the duration of your degree. There's also a couple of courses that do have some specific requirements, such as the Bachelor of Music, which requires an audition. So eligible courses, you can apply to most courses at UWA. All courses that don't have a quota restriction. That includes all of our undergraduate degrees, combined bachelor and master's degrees, and any non-quoted limited, any non-quoted assured pathways such as architecture, landscape architecture, Juris Doctor, translation studies and teaching. And the most important ones to remember that we don't allow early offers for is our assured pathways into medicine, dentistry, podiatry, and the Bachelor of Biomedicine. So the application process, unless you're an international applicant, everyone else applies through TISC. Applications are open now. They did open on the 1st of May, but don't forget you won't receive an offer until September. Through the TISC process, you can add up to 6 preferences. We always encourage students to utilise the preference system. And like I said previously, make sure that you've got one of those comprehensive degrees as one of your preferences as well. A few other things to note. You will only receive an early offer for your first preference, and you can only hold one offer at a time within the TISC system. You can change preferences and receive a different offer in other early offer rounds. If you're unsure, talk to us. We will try and advise you. And I'll just quickly let you know that there will be 5 early offer rounds. There's one on September 2. There's another one, I think, 24th of September, the 14th of October, November 18, and the final one will be on December 2. That's all from me. I will be here for the remainder of the session. Feel free to ask questions or contact our friendly Future Students team. I'm happy to accept emails if you think you need to email myself. But other than that, I will pass back to you, Dom.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that, Rick. So I'm going to continue on the session today with talking about some of our entry pathways into UWA. And Rick has, of course, alluded to a number of them already, but I'll just take you through in a little bit more detail. So the first pathway that I will talk about is the ATAR pathway, which we do still consider to be the most direct pathway into your chosen course at UWA. If you are an ATAR student or thinking about taking the ATAR pathway, you do, of course, need to finish your WA Certificate of Education, your WACE, and complete a minimum of 4 ATAR subjects in order to generate an ATAR score. And you might take more ATAR subjects than that as well. All of our courses at UWA do have that English language competency requirement. So the easiest way of meeting that is through your school by taking ATAR English, ATAR Literature, or ATAR EALD, English as an Additional Language or Dialect, and achieving a final scaled mark of 50 or higher. But I will talk about the STAT test, which is another option, and Rick has also mentioned the communications bridging unit that you could take as an alternative. It's also important to be aware, as Rick mentioned, of any prerequisites or special requirements for your chosen course. With your ATAR score, there's also some adjustment factors to consider and be aware of. The first of those is Broadway UWA, which recognises certain schools around both the metro and regional areas that may not have the same level of educational advantage, and students who complete Year 12 at one of these Broadway identified schools are automatically eligible for an ATAR adjustment. We do also have subject bonuses, so that is applied to your raw score for completing the higher level maths or languages other than English subjects in Year 12. And then there's also the Education Access Scheme. So this is for students whose studies have been negatively impacted over the course of year 11 and 12 due to circumstances outside of your control. For example, illness that has been ongoing over a longer period, and you think that that has impacted your final ATAR score. So you could apply through TISC with documentation for a case-by-case adjustment to your ATAR score. Finally, the last one here is first in family. So check with your parents or guardians. If neither of your parents have attended university, you could be eligible for an adjustment to your ATAR score. The next pathway that I'd like to talk about is our experience-based entry pathway. This one was introduced a couple of years ago as a way for students to stack their academic qualifications and life experiences, and you can use it to apply for any of our comprehensive bachelor degrees at UWA. However, in saying that, if there's a particular specialised or combined degree that you're looking at, you could always start in a comprehensive degree using this experience-based entry pathway and then transfer across to your preferred degree after completing one semester. Important to note that subject prerequisites and English requirements still apply, but remembering that you would generally be able to take bridging units during your first year of study. The sorts of things we'll consider in an experience-based entry application include an ATAR that maybe didn't quite meet the requirement for your chosen course, in combination with things like completed general subjects with good grades, maybe you've done certificate studies, or you've completed individual ATAR subjects without taking a full suite of ATAR. We'll also look then at life experience, so playing sport or music at a high level. Maybe you've done some work experience or volunteering or extracurricular awards which may have been completed through school or independently. You could also ask for an education reference from one of your teachers. All of these different sorts of experiences will then be stacked up towards meeting your entry requirements to UWA. So I do have an example to share with you. This is Miles, and Miles is interested in sports management. So he's looking at applying for a Bachelor of Science, which usually holds an ATAR requirement of 75. Miles didn't quite get the ATAR score that he was hoping for. However, when we factored that in with him playing football at a relatively high level, having volunteered at the local footy club for a year, and having completed a university enabling unit, stacking up all of those points together was enough for him to still get into his chosen course of the Bachelor of Science at UWA. So if you are interested in applying through this experience-based entry, you still submit your application through TISC as usual. Don't need to upload any high school reports, but if you have completed some external things that you would like us to consider, like certificates or work experience, you will need to upload documentation for that. We do have an experience-based entry eligibility checker or a calculator on our website, which is really handy. You can pop in the sorts of academic and life experiences that you have or that you're working towards and check if that will meet our entry requirements. The next pathway I'll touch on is our Indigenous pathways, which are offered through our School of Indigenous Studies at UWA. The first option here is an Aboriginal orientation course, so for students who maybe need a little bit more support before starting off their university degree, and it's a free 6-month program that's based on campus. We then also have a provisional entry scheme. So these are for students who are ready to just get straight into their degree. Maybe they don't need quite the same level of support, and they're continuing in their degree is provisional on how they've gone in that first semester before. We then have a number of different tertiary study pathways. So we do offer our own enabling program, which is called UWA Smart Start, and that is based at our beautiful Albany campus down in the Great Southern region. However, we do also accept enabling programs from each of the other Western Australian universities for entry into our comprehensive degrees. You might also like to start at TAFE or a registered training organisation, and if you have completed studies at diploma level or higher, you can use that as your basis for entry into UWA, as well as a couple of credits towards your university degree. Finally, you might also start at a different university and complete a semester there and transfer across, hopefully bringing some of those credits with you as well. The last pathway I'll talk about is the Special Tertiary Admissions Test. This is a once-off test of your literacy and numeracy skills, which is administered by TISC. Usually this test is sat as a mature age student, mature age being older than 20. However, UWA can give you permission to sit the STAT test as a school leaver. The STAT test can be used in two ways. The first way is to satisfy English language competency. So if you have not completed ATAR English, Lit or EALD, or you've not completed that successfully, if you apply to UWA, we will give you an offer that's conditional on meeting English language competency, and you can use that offer letter to book in and sit the STAT test through this. The second way of using the STAT test is to meet entry requirements to our comprehensive degrees. So there is a minimum score that you would need to meet for those degrees, and there is a calculator that's available on the TISC website to check what those minimum scores are. So that is an overview of a number of different pathways into study at UWA. The next section I will talk about is some of our different courses. In terms of choosing what to study at UWA, we really have such a variety of different courses on offer, and you can see that broken down into our 11 different study areas up on the screen here. But I do like to think of these as essentially just your headings, because under each one of these different study areas, there's a number of different courses or majors or minors that you might choose to study as part of your degree. And as I mentioned in my introduction, you're not necessarily confined just to one study area. So I really loved that I could mix and match different majors from across both health and biomedical sciences and across business and commerce. And you'll have the opportunity to do that within your degree as well if you wish to. So applying as a school leaver finishing year 12, you will be looking at starting an undergraduate or bachelor's degree at UWA. Undergraduate and bachelor's are pretty much interchangeable terms, and that describes your first degree at university level. We have two main types of undergraduate bachelor degree at UWA. The first type are our comprehensive degrees. This is what I studied, where you can choose up to 2 majors and potentially a minor as well. You have a lot of flexibility to choose from across different study areas, and you generally don't have to decide on what those majors are until the end of first year. So this is a great option for students who maybe have multiple different interest areas or passions, or maybe you're just a little bit unsure and you want to try a bunch of different things before you commit to a particular study area. Then we also have our specialised degree options. Our specialised degrees are fantastic for students who have a very defined idea of what they want to study in their degree. You'll take an extended major, which takes up much more space within your study plan. So for that reason, you're not able to fit in a full second major from another area. However, you can still choose to add a minor from another area if you wish. Let's have a look at some of our comprehensive degrees first of all. And you can see some ATAR scores that are listed here, but remember there's a number of other entry pathways as well. You'll see from the titles of these comprehensive degrees that they are quite broad, but remembering that you will kind of specialise or focus down with your selection of majors and minors. If we have a look at an example study plan for our comprehensive degree, first of all, most of our courses are 3 years in length, and each year is split up into 2 semesters, which is a little bit different from your 4 terms at school. In each semester, as a full-time student, you typically will study 4 units or 4 different subjects. So let's say you are interested in studying a Bachelor of Commerce majoring in marketing. The required units for the marketing major will take up some spaces within your study plan across all of your first, second, and third year. But you can see that there's still quite a lot of space left in the study plan, which is where in a comprehensive degree, you really have a lot of flexibility to decide if you would like to add a second major or a minor, or you can also choose to take a number of fun elective units that might complement your studies or give you the opportunity to try some different things. In this example here, the Bachelor of Commerce does have some foundational units that all students across the Bachelor of Commerce will take in accounting, economics, management, and business statistics. And that's just to give students a broader understanding across the areas of commerce. This example student has also decided to study a second major in French. And you can see that the second major is again taking up a number of spaces within the study plan there. Still a few units left over there. That is where you would have the opportunity to add a minor if you wish, or you could just take some elective or free choice units. So this example student has taken a couple of media units in the first year, as well as a drawing unit in second year, and the WIL, or Work Integrated Learning Unit, which is where you go out and do an internship or placement with a business, a real company, and you're getting that practical work experience at the same time as completing an elective unit towards completing your degree. Now, let's say this particular student starts off in their first year and they get to the end of first year and they maybe struggled with those French units, or they just didn't enjoy them as much as they had hoped. But on the other hand, they've been loving those media units that they wanted to give a go at. So at this point in time, after the first year, as I mentioned, these comprehensive degrees are very flexible. So you could then change your mind, decide not to pursue the French second major, and instead you might change your second major to communications and media studies. And as you see, it's not adding any additional time to the duration of studies. It's simply changing which units are counting towards a major and which units are going to be electives or your free choice units. All right, so let's now have a look at some of our specialised bachelor degrees. These ones, as you can tell, even just from looking at the titles here, are getting a lot more focused into one particular study area. So previously we had, for example, a Bachelor of Science, very broad area. Now we have degrees like the Bachelor of Human Sciences or Bachelor of Molecular Science or Bachelor of Environmental Science. And if we take a look at an example study plan for one of these specialised degree courses, this is for our Bachelor of Engineering Honours, which is a 4-year program. You can see that the required units for the Engineering Extended major in gold there take up a lot more space within the study plan, which is why you don't have space for a second major from another area. However, you will still have a number of spaces available to choose if you'd like to, again, add a minor from another area. This student has chosen a minor in active citizenship, or you could use those spaces towards completing elective free choice units. Now, I did mention about work integrated learning, the opportunity to go out and get some practical work experience. And these are just some of the different partners that UWA works with around Perth to provide these experiences to students. And depending on what you're interested in, some of these are going to be more or less relevant to you. So for example, if you're a student who's interested in studying conservation biology, you might go and complete your internship with Kings Park or Perth Zoo. If, on the other hand, you're a student who is planning on studying mining engineering, you might go and complete your internship with Rio Tinto or BHP. We do also have some new specialised courses that have just started this year in 2024. So I'll talk you through a couple of these different options. Firstly, we have the Bachelor of Primary Education. So a fantastic opportunity to, straight from school, become a primary educator, and that's an area of great demand out in the community. We then have the Bachelor of Biomedicine Specialised. This course is part of our assured pathways to the Doctor of Medicine, Doctor of Dental Medicine and Doctor of Podiatric Medicine, but it is also possible to take this course as a standalone degree. Just to note that this course does have a quota, so there are a limited number of places available. So just because you achieve the minimum ATAR doesn't necessarily guarantee you a place in this course. We then have the Bachelor of Social Work Honours, another really growing area of employment out in the community, and lots of fantastic opportunity for practical work with 2 field education placements as part of this degree. Finally, we have the Bachelor of International Relations. In this course, you'll take an extended major in international relations, which will feature some language units and lots of fantastic opportunities to go on an exchange or study abroad experience as part of your degree. The last type of undergraduate course that I would like to talk about is our combined bachelor's degrees. So you might have been really inspired by one of the specialised bachelor's degree options, but you're also wanting that flexibility of a second major from another area. And that's where we have our combined bachelor's degrees. So you could take one extended major for your specialised degree, combine it with a second major from a comprehensive bachelor's degree, and you're actually walking away with 2 full degree qualifications in a much shorter time frame. So typically you would expect it to be 3 years plus 3 years for each of those 2 degrees, so 6 years altogether. They're generally condensed down into sometimes as short as just 4 years for your 2 degree qualifications. Now I'll move on to talking about some of our postgraduate pathways. Postgraduate is post-graduation. So that means it's the second degree that you would study at university after you've already completed an undergraduate degree. With our postgraduate degrees, you may not know that you want to pursue further study at this time, and that's totally okay. So, for example, using myself, I had absolutely no idea that I wanted to go back and study teaching. I completed my bachelor degree, entered the workforce, I was working for a number of years, and then I was inspired to pursue teaching. So I've gone back and applied for postgraduate study a number of years later. However, some of you may have an idea already of exactly what you want to do after completing your undergraduate degree. And so we have some pathway options that you can apply for as a school leaver, which will give you a package offer for both your undergraduate and your chosen postgraduate degree at the same time. The first option here is our assured pathways. So often these are quite competitive, quota-based courses, and it will give you that peace of mind that your place is held for you in the postgraduate program whilst you're completing your undergraduate degree. Just to note, with medicine, dentistry, podiatry and pharmacy and teaching, there may be some additional requirements aside from just the ATAR score to consider. We also then have our combined bachelor's and master's degrees. So this is quite similar to our combined degrees at the undergraduate level. It takes one of our specialised degrees, combines it with a master's degree in a similar study area. And a master's is a type of postgraduate degree qualification. So again, you're getting 2 full degree qualifications in a shortened duration of usually 4 years. And in this example here, that second degree is actually at the higher master's postgraduate level. So that's going to look really attractive to employers if you're a student who has a very set idea of what you want to continue on with in the future. So now I'm going to hand back over to Mick, who will take us through the instructions for the live Q&A. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Dom and Rick, for the detailed overview on UWA's early offers, entry pathways, as well as the experience-based entry program and our variety of courses. It's now time for the Q&A, as mentioned. So for those that haven't already, again, we would encourage you to make use of this opportunity. Both Dom and Rick are a wealth of knowledge on things involved around admissions at UWA and also some broader things as well. So please make sure to join Slido if you do have any questions and to submit them through. We do have a couple of questions already waiting to go for us, both of which I would say are targeted more towards you, Rick. So for the first one, we have a question which is, for Year 11 predicted ATAR marks given to the student from their school, how can the student confirm if that is the same ATAR mark that UWA uses, or does UWA provide some form of scaling or different calculation?
Okay, that's a great question. So every high school at the end of year 11 uploads their school results to the School Curriculum and Standards Authority, and that information is then pushed through to TISC. So that's how TISC gets hold of your year 11 results. That usually happens around about March the following year. So TISC have those results, and then they apply a number of calculations over those results using scaling. They use a number of different calculations using the previous, what would be 4 or 5 years now of data to try and project someone's ATAR. I hope that answers that question.
No worries. We'll move on to a second question, might just change it up. How would I apply for an experience-based entry through TISC? What's the course code?
Okay, so apply through TISC. You just simply apply for the course that you want to apply for. Bearing in mind it's our comprehensive degrees, there is 1 or 2 other courses being included there, but at this stage, the simplest ones to remember is the Bachelor of Business, Bachelor of Arts, Commerce, Biomedical Science, Environmental Design and Science. You just simply apply for those, and then we do the rest. We may come back and ask for more information if you haven't provided enough detail. Probably the best thing to do is make sure that you include any certificates, Cert 2, 3, 4, any work experience, so providing your CV. And another one that's really popular is things like sport, but it does need to be at a reasonably highish level. So it needs to be the highest level that you can play based on your age. I say sport, but that does also include, and we've had people doing ballet, we've had people in rock bands. So really what it is about, what we're looking for there is that level of commitment that's being applied to pursue an interest.
Great, awesome. We've got another question. If your predicted ATAR was 90 and you passed methods, chemistry, and English, but achieved an ATAR of 60, would an early offer for engineering, which has a minimum ATAR of 80, still hold? I can repeat that one, Rick.
Yeah, I think you might need to. Thanks, Mick.
No worries. Sorry, if your predicted ATAR was a 90 and you passed methods, chemistry, and English, but achieve a final ATAR of 60, would an early offer for engineering, which has a minimum ATAR of 80, still hold?
I can give you the most simplest answer there, and that is yes. And I'll just reiterate that one of the main reasons for early offers was a previous Vice Chancellor at UWA was a gentleman by the name of Paul Johnson, was very keen to try and alleviate stress from Year 12 students. Most people think early offers evolved as part of COVID, but UWA were doing early offers back as far back as I think it was 2016, maybe 2017. and they evolved over time. But really, it was about the ATAR and the WACE exams themselves not being the be-all and end-all for a student, and that's how early offers evolved. So if your predicted ATAR, we'll just use that example, was 90, that is the ATAR that we are then going to use to determine eligibility. The condition being that you actually achieve a final ATAR, and the other conditions that I mentioned earlier. So achieving WACE, meeting English, which I think you already mentioned, and in this instance would have met the prerequisites for engineering.
Awesome, a nice thorough answer to that one. Always good to get the history behind. So we'll move on to the next one. If your year 11 predicted ATAR score is not as high as you want, is it still worth applying for an early entry admission?
Yes, absolutely. So basically we want students to apply. Once they've applied, we will then take over the assessment. So if your ATAR is, or predicted ATAR is too low, we'll be in touch. We'll either give you an offer for experience-based entry if we can, as long as you've got one of those comprehensive degrees as your first preference. There'll be a condition on there allowing you to do STAT as well. So Dom mentioned earlier in the presentation that UWA will give permission for students to do STAT. That offer letter will be that permission. But one thing to keep in mind, I'm not sure if this was mentioned, but I'll mention it anyway. If you are doing STAT, you can't complete it until after WACE exams have concluded. That is one of TISC's rules in allowing school leavers to complete STAT.
Yep. So, and I believe that the earliest normally students can is towards the very end of November normally, and then sometimes in December.
I think it might be towards the end of December. Sarah Hamilton's actually on here. She might be able to jump in and give us the exact one there.
So for early offers, the last date is the 29th of November to apply for the last early offer round on the 2nd of December. Mm. And then the main round comes out in December, late December. So I think it's about the 3rd of December this year.
And when can students do STAT?
Oh, they can do STAT. There is one late December. So I think it's the 28th of December or something like that. It's just shortly after Christmas.
Yep. So any student that's maybe concerned or worried, make sure to keep that date free potentially in your calendar if like there are any trip plans or things of that nature. Okay, we'll move on to the next one. So the next question is if I got the early offer, is it mandatory to accept it? It's a multi-part question, so we might just start with that one first.
No, it's definitely not mandatory to accept it. So one of the things that we have noticed a lot, and this is just the way things are, is a lot of students will change their mind. If you do accept an offer and want to change your mind, then we will withdraw that offer. So as a new offer can be made, whether that be from UWA or from another institution, but only one offer can be held at a time in TISC. And one thing I'll just also mention is for most of our degrees, there's no quota. So students can change their mind pretty much all the way up until semester starts. Give a couple of weeks advance. So, if you are unsure on what to do, you can change your mind or just sit on it and do nothing. The one thing I would say is as long as you don't enroll or don't be enrolled in a course that you don't want to be doing. And if you do change mind and go to another university or come to UWA from a different university, only be enrolled in one degree.
Okay, that would relate to I would say the next part of the question, which is when is the latest date of confirmation? So I assume that would be when is the latest date I can accept the early offer if I've received it?
Yeah, so we encourage all students to attend orientation week, which is the week prior to semester commencing. So let's say mid-February. I don't know the dates off the top of my head when semester starts, when orientation is for next year, but mid-February I think is probably a safe kind of time frame to use.
Yep. Third part, it's 4 parts. I'll just let you know that now, Rick. What happens if I don't accept the offer? If just like leave it there?
So what happens is that offer will lapse. So there is a lapse date on the offer, and that lapses, and then it's as if you've never received the offer. There's nothing. Like I come back to that part about being enrolled. Accepting an offer or doing nothing with an offer is fine, as long as you don't enroll. If you do enroll and change your mind and withdraw from that course, and you've got up until census date, which is the end of March. And one thing I'll just clarify, I did say, the end of or mid-February. There is some courses that are very strict on the time frame, and that is medicine, dentistry, biomedicine, podiatry. So if you're applying for one of those degrees, follow the instruction on the offer letter.
Yep. And then the last part, it's can I defer the offer?
In most cases, yes. Again, medicine, dentistry, biomedicine, because they're quota courses, what I would suggest is to get in contact with the admissions team.
Yep. Awesome. Okay, so we've got through the multi-part question. So we'll go to just a single question, back to a single question this time. So this one, do I need to have my early offer course listed as my first preference by main round offer dates for the offer to remain valid? Okay,
so to get an early offer, you've got to have it listed as your first preference. So that's the first part. You receive an offer. If you do nothing with that offer, so you don't accept it, but you change preferences, then, and we can give you a higher preference, then we will do in the main round. And that's the same, should be the same for all universities. If you're applying for a higher preference, then you'll receive that. I think that pretty much answers that question. The only thing I was going to say, if you do accept the offer, and again, sorry, Sarah, I'm going to throw to you here. If a student does accept the offer, do we require that to be withdrawn prior to main round if they're looking at a higher preference?
So yes, we'll do that on your behalf. So if you accept your offer and then you've moved that to preference 6, and we can offer you one of your higher preferences, that will mean that you're indicating to us that you would like a different course as a higher preference. And if we can, we'll make you that offer. So once again, having one offer at a time means that the initial early offer will be withdrawn, and we'll provide you with a new offer for your higher preference course.
Awesome. Another question, I think it might have been answered within the presentation if I cast my mind back, but always handy to potentially reiterate. As TISC is only for domestic students, can international students studying WAIS still apply for early admission?
Yes, but international students are required to apply direct to the university. We will then pull your results from TISC.
And just to add on to that, we'll also send out offers in line with the TISC dates. So the first early offer round, the 2nd of September, will also apply if you have made a direct application. So you'll receive an early offer direct from UWA as if you were in the same pool as the domestic students in terms of dates and timelines.
We've got a few more minutes, so if anybody does have a question that they would like to hopefully have answered live, please make sure to get that in the last couple of minutes that we've got. Another question that we have is, I want to be assured that I have a place at university next year and will change my preferences so that I can receive an early offer from every university. Is that okay?
You can do that, but you can only hold one offer in the TISC system. Now, I can only speak for UWA here, if a student gets an offer from UWA and then applies to another university, and then once TISC is finished, then decides to come back to UWA, we will generally allow that offer to stand. But in the TISC system, it's one offer only.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, another question.
Can I just add something else to that, Mike? Mick, sorry. If a student is wanting to desperately come to and ensure that they have a place at university, the way UWA's early offer works is that once you receive that offer, if you've got the predicted ATAR, then that almost is your guarantee to come into university and come into UWA.
Yep. So make sure to have us as your first preference, and if you get that, then you're set. Okay.
Correct.
Next question. If I apply for an early offer and get it, what happens if I apply for the medicine assured pathway?
What I would suggest there is, in kind of joining the last two questions together, is you could put a UWA specialist degree or comprehensive degree as your first preference for some September 2, receive an early offer, then make sure that you change back to having medicine as your first preference. Do bear in mind that medicine closes the end of September, so you have to make sure that you change that preference around, or make sure that you've included medicine. What there would be no point doing is keeping your early offer as your first preference and medicine below that, because you'll then never get assessed for, well, not assessed for medicine, but the offer will never flow down to medicine.
Yep. So the important thing is, if you're considering medicine, you want to secure that early offer, have the comprehensive as your first preference before September 2nd, then changes soon afterwards, because the medicine admissions process is very stringent on due dates and when you have your application in by. So you'll want to make sure that that is switched back before the due date at the end of September. Otherwise, you won't be able to be considered for medicine.
Just to add in there, Mick, so that students don't panic, if you do make those changes, we will actually withdraw the early offer for, say, Bachelor of Science or your comprehensive course. So that was what you will see on your portal for UWA. However, having had that early offer, we will honour it. So say something drastically went wrong, you didn't get into medicine, but you had the Bachelor of Philosophy is one of the key ones, which is an ATAR of 98. We would still honour your predicted ATAR to get you into the Bachelor of Philosophy, but would issue you with a new offer come main round if it wasn't medicine. So does that kind of make sense? Don't look at the dashboard and be concerned. We would honour your predicted ATAR for main round if it was higher than your actual ATAR.
Yep, that makes sense. Okay, well, we'll bring the live Q&A section to a close. Thank you again to all of our panelists, mostly Rick and Sarah in this case, for their answers to the questions. Thank you for still staying with us though, Dom. So before we wrap up this evening, I would again like to just thank everybody for being a part of the Early Offers and Entry Pathway webinar this evening. The key thing that I would recommend kind of taking away is that we are here to help guide you along the way in terms of applying to UWA and to help you figure out the best course and the best pathway for you. So don't hesitate to potentially reach out to us if you do have any questions or queries. I would also like to highlight, as we are on a webinar event at the moment, and there's always some great opportunities to visit campus, which can be great if you can. We do have our Experience UWA Day coming up on the 10th of July. So this is a specific event for years 10s, 11 and 12 students. You'd be joined by our friendly staff from the Future Students team to explore our Crawley campus, seeing a lot of the vibrant gardens and the dynamic facilities that are around, as well as get more information about studying at UWA. Do make sure as well to continue checking our events webpage over the remainder of the year, because we are always hosting new events over the course of the year. So other fantastic opportunities as well to get a first-hand experience of campus. As a reminder, we do have our dedicated team at the Future Student Centre, many of whom will have been answering your questions in Slido. They're happy to answer any questions that you might have after the event. Their contact details are up on the screen, and I do encourage you to reach out to them if you do have any questions. They will be staying on though, answering your questions through Slido right through until 7:30 this evening. So if you do have more questions, you can stay online and you can continue to chat with them on Slido as well. A follow-up email will be sent later this or within the week, which will provide a link to UWA's early offer website that includes, again, a frequently asked questions section, links to the event webpage, as well as an application guide to help you in terms of applying for your early offer. We do really value your feedback as well to help us plan our future events. The email that will be going out will also include a link to a survey so that you can provide your thoughts. Those that complete the survey will go into the running to win a Visa gift card valued at $100. So something potentially for you to get there. Just in closing, again, we hope that this evening has provided you with a better understanding of UWA's early offers, their entry pathway, as well as the courses that are available to you to achieve success in your future study aspirations. We hope you all have a wonderful evening, and we look forward to hearing from you and hopefully meeting you and seeing you on campus at some of our future events, or potentially next year as students. We hope you all have a great evening.